I mean, that definitely was, at least until now, the biggest challenge for our first virtual tour. I think we've interviewed some of the interviewees like at least, or like 5, 6, 7 times, some of them. And so that was challenging, just with even birds, crows, just like nonstop.
We've heard that story.
So, and there was a huge like wind tunnel, I guess they would call it.
Okay.
And so we had to avoid that, or we couldn't avoid it for some of the interviews. And so that provided a challenge. Also in the winter, it didn't help being extremely cold.
Right.
But you couldn't tell because...
Right.
Well, yeah, that was my question. Are there things that we provide? Do we bring heaters or those little like hand packet things, or should we in the future maybe?
I think we should.
We probably should.
Yeah.
We've been lucky that it has our biggest weather challenge has been heat.
Yes.
So we've been lucky. The winter have been mild enough that the speakers have been comfortable. I wouldn't call a lot of them challenges. It's more opportunities that we have to plan ahead for.
Yes.
So like the air traffic control virtual tour, we're talking about a process, and they were telling us the process took 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
And then you came up with the time lapse idea, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Then it ended up being like 15 minutes.
yeah, and then we sped it up to less than 5 minutes.
5.
Right. Yeah, so that was just using really the technology that we have to take that long, probably boring, I imagine, process and make it something that's elegant and engaging for the viewer.
Right.
Because are those videos meant for what's the audience with those videos?
So in all the virtual tours, there are 2 audiences. There's a version for the K through 12 community for STEM awareness and STEM education, and they're on Knock AD's YouTube channel, so teachers can go to it and say, "Look at this, really cool stuff that's happening right here in our backyard in Southern Maryland." And then there is the I call it the recruiting version, which if you were a engineer, computer scientist, even a business major, you could look at that video and say, "Hey, I went to career fair and this organization called NavAir was there, and what do they do?" Someone could go on and look at those and then learn how to apply for a job. And we thought that was really cool that we were helping to support the Navy and Knock AD in their efforts to recruit the best, because there's some really cool stuff that happens.
Yeah. So again, making those longer clips probably engaging, especially for that K-12 audience who probably has a very short attention span at this point.
And we did things like we put music on it and took a request for a 20-minute video and said, let's do a series of 3 to 4-minute videos, so that the teachers could use it very quickly and weave it into a lesson plan if they wanted to.
Yeah, very cool. All right. Behind the scenes magic is actually the topic we have next, and probably one of the last topics we talk about. We've talked about a lot of behind the scenes stuff already. Is there anything with any of our shoots that sticks out to you as far as like shots you couldn't believe you captured, or something that was super challenging but you would never know by the shot that came out of it?
The whole challenging thing we touched upon with the weather, I think you can tell from just all the interviewees, and we directed them to speak well, and they know their things, they know their stuff as well, and so it didn't look like they were struggling through it, but it was
so weather,
all the weather stuff. But I couldn't believe our first virtual tour, just the whole ASOL chamber again. Didn't know what to expect really and how vast that space was, and so I was given freedom to just walk around the whole space and get my establishing shots, and even climbed up this almost 90-degree ladder with holding my gimbal. It was a staircase, but it looked like a ladder.
Yeah.
And there was a plane hanging from the ceiling, jet hanging from the ceiling.
Right.
Yeah.
So I just got my somewhat aerial type of shot from that. And so that was cool to experience.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that sticks out of your mind, Tina?
Oh, there's so many cool things that we've done.
Right.
I mean, I'm going to give kudos to the team. Sometimes we film and we're in a lab or a workshop situation, so we want to realistically show the workspace, but we also want to make it as visually appealing as possible. So a lot of times we have discussions about how to frame something, and I'll rely on Paul and the team's expertise to say, okay, I like the idea of this shot, but do we have something better or different that we can use that gives a different visual? So
there's a lot of security stuff.
Yeah.
involved.
And,
So I
yeah.
always want to shoot something this way, but then we can't because security.
Yes.
So I'm going to, again, go off script just a little bit. I know you guys recently did a project at the Student UAS competition. How is that different than working with like a government customer? Did you already have the people that were going to speak on video lined up, like even the students? How did that work?
Yeah, so that was a really fun day at St. Mary's County Airport, Regional Airport. And there was a lot of planning that had to go into, and that was a different message. This was more of a promotional spot instead of an informational spot. So we worked hard on making sure the visuals stayed on the message. And I mean, you must have used up 1 million batteries that day because probably for 4 or 5 hours, Paul was around shooting everything and everyone. And then also incorporating some of the RoboNation and the SUAS organization's footage that they provided. And then coordinating with a couple college teams. That's always fun because it was summertime and it took a couple days.
So did you coordinate all that beforehand, or was it the day of?
We coordinated most of it beforehand. The shooting, we had to react on site to what was going on, right?
I mean, my background with events and just other things, my adrenaline turns on, and then I just shoot literally everything I see. It helps knowing, of course, what the event is about, and I just feel like what I see is important. I just go for it. Yeah, and then I direct our other shooter, Alex, to we'll switch off between our tripod and get bulletin. So I tell him, do this.
I think they kicked Paul off the flight line a couple times.
I go where the action is.
So we wanted to catch the shot.
That's I've been to a couple of those competitions before, and it's definitely a fun competition. And the fact that you guys got to capture it through video, and now again have that kind of, I don't know, artifact to live on of what that competition is, and all the different schools that come together is really cool. That we
definitely go off the energy as well, and just seeing all the young people there. And
they were all very impressive, and we had a great time talking to them all and seeing all their, technical creations.
And they're just like probably so much smarter than me.
All right, so let's wrap this episode up. I think we covered a lot of what we wanted to cover, which is good. To kind of just summarize, it sounds like the production process is really a combination of taking all of the prep work that you have done and your team has done, and then adding that little bit of creativity in there for Paul to get on to the set or the location and decide this is going to look good for this shot, and have all of that kind of ready to go. So again, making it as easy as possible for the customer and giving them that platform to tell their story and deliver their message.
Yeah, I think it's a whole lot of creativity that goes into it, because there's a certain eye that you need for something to be visually appealing on film, versus you're watching it. So the team definitely has that eye, and our customers are very happy when we deliver the product.
Yeah,
I had no idea what I'd be doing if it wasn't for her direction, ultimately.
All right. So on the next episode, we are talking about post-production, taking all the wonderful stuff that Paul has shot on these sets and locations and putting it together, putting it with music and animations. And we'll talk about whiteboarding animations and all kinds of stuff. So that is on the next episode. Tina, Paul, thank you for joining me. We'll see everybody next time. Thank you guys so much for watching the first part of this episode. If you want to learn more about our video production team and specifically the virtual tours that they've produced, you can go to avian.com/virtual tours. That's avian.com/virtual tours. You can learn about all of the services that they provide and see some of the videos that they've produced in the past as well. Thank you again for listening to this podcast. Tune in next week for the next part of this episode.